All right, we're live. Broadcasting from the Lagrange point between crisis and opportunity. From a secure orbital weapons platform. It's a night shift. Makes sense, right? It's 2 in the afternoon. It's the night shift. Maybe it's nighttime where you are. Good morning, everyone. Hey, how's everybody doing today? Morning shift. Now the count timer just went to 34 minutes. That's not right. Shadow Patriot Terry, it shouldn't be on 34 minutes. Gonna punch into work in 30 minutes. Well, hey, thanks for stopping by, Chameleon, before work. Today's Freestyle Friday. It's a new thing. I just invented it. Freestyle Friday is just all the stuff that I couldn't get to earlier in the week that is kind of hanging out there. And what do we have? We got some books. Didn't get to my book recommendations last time. We're going to do that. Lefty Batista, I'm new here. Came from Vetted. You have the same voice as... That's funny. It's funny you mentioned that. I just talked to Patrick a minute ago. Well, a few minutes ago. Yeah, that Lazar movie is something. Let's see if I switch to my other view. Will it go? Oh, I lost my theme song. All right, well, that's okay. Does anybody know what the deal is? Is anybody else as confused by paper towels as I am? I'm super confused by two things: paper towels and toothpaste. I just got back from the store. I had to go pick up a few things. And every time I go to the grocery store and I look at the paper towels, it's always like deciphering some kind of ancient riddle to figure out what the best price is. You can never figure out like what the right deal is. There's the super roll, there's the double roll, there's the ultra roll, there's the 4-pack, but it's actually more like 8 because each roll is like 2 rolls. And then there's the 8-pack, but it's more like 16 and it says it on the front because it's, each one is. And then sometimes you'll buy the cheaper paper towels and it's like 3 paper towels loosely wrapped. It's like when you have a roll of ones and you put like a hundo on the outside. Then at other times, it's like $27 for 3 rolls of paper towels. I don't understand the math or the economics behind paper towels. It's that and toothpaste. Toothpaste is always like so elusive because it's like ultra white, super white, ultra clean, tartar control. There's 32 different kinds of Colgate. They all sound exactly alike, but none of them have the same words in the title, in the name. I don't get it, man. Always go for a 1 sheet. They turn it into breakfast cereal met with mascots. Clocks at 0. Shadow Patriot Terry, I don't know what's going on. I think we're live. As far as I'm aware, we're live. You should be. I could buy 10 rolls and they're gone in 2 days. My kid's in that phase now where he takes a roll of paper towels and he'll just grab 1 paper towel and then he just unrolls the entire roll and it goes rolling across the house. He thinks it's the funniest thing in the world. So we're just burning through paper towels. Always the kitchen rolls. Nah, it's cotton wool buds for me. They're no good for ears, and yet they don't really sell anything else for it. Cotton wool buds? Christopher Hovord, what is that? What are you talking about? Nothing special today. We're just doing Trader Joe's coffee, just regular Trader Joe's coffee. If you haven't gotten your mug yet, guys, you got to get in on this. These mugs are great. It says they're not dishwasher safe, but I've run mine through the dishwasher like 150 times now, and it's fine. I don't know. We had a really big day yesterday. I put out that video on the Bob Lazar movie that should be made but hasn't been made yet. And that became the number one video we've ever put out on this channel. I like 2 hours, less than 2 hours. It was the number. I think it's at like almost 50,000 views today. This is crazy. Let me check. What is it at? Is that 48.3? We're at 49,000 views right now for this Bob Lazar teaser trailer thing. And man, I guess we struck a nerve. It must have gotten shared quite a bit. So that was exciting to wake up to. We picked up like another almost 1,000 subscribers yesterday. Channel's blowing up. We're doing great. We're at 8,634. But guys, for those of you who have been with me since the early days, the OG days, it was only like 8 months ago. It wasn't that long ago. In fact, I think, let me just check my analytics here. I'll tell you. What was it? It was... This all got started, oh, wow. Yeah, like July of 2023. Actually, late July. No, early July. Early July was when we really got started. So we've been up a year, just over. And in that time, I was excited to have 400 subscribers. And 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago, I was excited to break 5,000 subscribers. We got to 6,000. We went right past 6,000 to 7,000. We went right past 7,000 to 8,000. Overnight, we're almost at 9,000 subscribers. As of 10 after 2. Well, not almost at 9,000, but 8,634 is where we're at. We picked up 2,793 subs in the last 28 days. So, gang, keep the comments alive, keep sharing these videos, do what you're doing because it's really helping, and the algorithm loves it. So we've been getting, I guess, pushed out there a little bit more, and people are into it. So super excited about that. And I've been working with Patrick to do some more collabs with Vetted and Nightshift. Two great tastes that taste great together. It makes sense. It's like pineapple and pizza. You wouldn't think, then sometimes it just works. Things just fall into place. And we're going to do another collab on next Wednesday at 2:00. I have to figure out how exactly we're going to do this, but we're going to do a live stream with Patrick. I'm going to try to break his brain with crazy clips, and we're going to do rapid response reactions and get Patrick's 2 cents. I want to get his thoughts on Dan Burrish and some of the Area 51 S4 stuff. So we'll go there. That's going to be exciting. And then after that, we'll see what we're going to try to do at least once a month, do some kind of back and forth thing. So it's just a lot of overlap between the Vetters and the night shift people, which is great. I remember when you said, Stephen Landstrutter, I remember when you celebrated 2,000 subs. I remember that. I was just thinking about that. I was like, oh yeah, we made that video. Whose podcast was Matthew Pines on? Matthew Pines was on... that's a good question. What podcast was that? Anybody remember? Those were clips that Patrick pulled. So I only saw the clip. I didn't see the complete podcast, but it was some kind of a Bitcoin finance thing, which I want to get into today. We're going to do something a little different today. Let's see you rival other UAP channels. Hey, well, that's... You know what my real goal is? My actual goal? I'm not trying to win YouTube. I don't think that, how can you win YouTube? It would be cool to get the YouTube plaque. I'd love to get to 100K subscribers and then we get that cool plaque. That'd be great. I think if you get to 1 million, it's a gold plaque. But ultimately, I just want to build the most interesting channel. I just want it to be more fun and I want it to be more interactive, which is why today, I mean, I'm not trying to be, super aggressive with just getting the channel out there and making it the biggest channel. That would be great. But I think that's just not my primary goal. Like wherever we go, we'll get there. Line goes up, number goes up. We just keep showing up and doing it, and we'll get there. But you guys are in on the ground floor. My real goal, and if anybody can help me pull this off, it would be great, is to wind up on like in GTA, um, as like a radio station in Grand Theft Auto. I think that would be the coolest thing. Or if you remember in was it Reservoir Dogs? There was that fake channel, that radio station that they all listened to, K Billy Super Sounds of the '70s, KBILLY, the Bohem. Stephen Wright was the DJ. The Monster Truck Show, the Behemoth. Vetted is great. Vetted, yeah, Vetted is awesome. Patrick does get some really great guests. I think, yeah, it's Lefty Batista. It's the Tango and Cash of ufology. I think that's really what I actually think it really works to collaborate more. I feel like that there's just that we're different enough and we have different enough perspectives on this stuff that it keeps it interesting to get the back and forth. And I like it because sometimes I'm just like talking to a camera in an empty room, and it's nice to have other people to go back and forth with. Hello from Romania. Well, hello in Romania. How's the weather in Romania? What time is it there? Should come to our after party sometime and chat with Patrick personally and Christian Morales. I think you might change your mind. I feel like I'm dipping into a conversation that I just missed. So I want to talk to you guys today. I want to try to use the chat a little bit more and work it into the show. So what we're going to do is I have questions I want your thoughts on. And because I'm kind of like over here in my own world and I've got my ideas about what's what, but I want to run some questions by the audience today and get your thoughts and input on some of this stuff. So we're going to do that in a second, but I want you to start thinking about Bitcoin, Wall Street, and disclosure. Put that in your brain and just start chewing on that because there is a connection there, and I think it ties into something that is happening in the sort of the background, maybe starting to come a little bit more out into public now. I feel like they're connected, and I'm interested in hearing what your thoughts are on that relationship because we do see a tighter relationship forming. Matthew Pines talking about the disclosure stuff, Carl Nell talking at the SALT conference, Scaramucci's SALT conference. So start thinking about that. I'll ask you a more specific set of questions in just a few minutes. We'll get to that. A bunch of new members to welcome. Let me see if I can pronounce these right. Bulwignable. Bulwignable. Welcome on. I hope I said that right. Bulwignable. Trinimac. Cruel Handsome. BMO Stoked. LC. Jason Carnes. Indrid Cold. Derek Doherty. Miss Smarty Pants. Roomish Lance Paul. SJ. NC. Real Fun New Jersey. All in the last week. Welcome aboard. I'm not going to go through the entire list. I think I'm going to just start doing member of the day. We'll pick some people and we'll have to make a graphic. And it's great. The membership has been growing and that's awesome. One of the weird things about YouTube, and it's partly why I consider this an art project and not really like I just think of it as an art project because it's a medium that lets me use a lot of the skills that I already have for what I do outside of this, to have a long form conversation with lots of people like you to get sort of a temperature check on where we're at with some of the weirdness in the world today. And I think it's just an amazing tool to be able to do that. But part of the deal with the devil that you make with YouTube is trying to figure out as YouTube becomes more successful, like not YouTube, but as Nightshift becomes successful and grows and gets bigger, there's a sweet spot, and before you get to the sweet spot, it's a lot of work and it's just a ton of time. It's a ton of like emailing back and forth to find new guests. Like you email 10 people, 3 of them write you back. 2 of them can't do it. 1 of them can, but only on this day in this month. So there's like always 10 or 20 email chains going back and forth. calling people. I pre-interview a lot of people where I'll just sort of set up a call and talk to them for like an hour before I even decide if we're going to do an interview, just to see what that would be like and kind of what we could cover. Do that a lot. Tons of papers and patents and things that people have sent me and want to show and talk about. All of this stuff, that it's before I even shoot a video, edit a video, do any research, read any articles. To stay on top of the amount of shit you have to stay on top of just to keep the wheels turning is a tremendous time suck. And I also do other things. This isn't my only job. So, which I'm not saying this to like, I don't want you to shed a tear for me. I'm just saying in context for people who don't do it every day, you're not thinking about it. You have other things going on. But when you're trying to pull off the channel like this and make it happen and give it a cool look and a feel and a create that community, it's on my mind 24 hours a day. I think about it all the time, in some level. So these memberships, these subscribers, these numbers really matter, because just having subscribers means that when I publish a video and it goes out to a bunch of people and you guys watch it, if you like it, then that lets me monetize those videos and make a little bit of money to keep this all going. Like hosting the website costs money. All these other, paying for subscriptions to different software just Adobe Suite. Just Adobe Creative Suite is like, God, I don't even know how much that they're charging me every month, because it's just automated now. They just rent you the software. All software is for rent. So this is my long way of saying thank you for supporting the channel. It means everything to me, because I really do love it. And the more I do it, the more I love it. And the more I get to talk with you guys and meet new people and new subscribers and get this conversation rolling, the more fun it is. And I think that this is the perfect medium to tackle the topic that we're trying to tackle here, because it allows a back and forth. It lives more than just in the moment. And it lets us do some deep dives. We can engage in a little creative speculation and try to read between the lines, read the tea leaves, and figure out what's going on. And along the way, it's just crazy stuff happening again and again and again. I love it. It's the best job in the world. It's so cool to be able to sit down and talk to people who are into like time travel, UFOs, advanced cutting edge, next generation technology, singularity stuff, ghosts, interdimensional beings, moon bases, telepathy, astral projection. It's like that scene in Ghostbusters where Ernie Hudson is interviewing for the job, and Annie Potts is like reading out the list of all the shit that they, and he's like, if there's a steady paycheck in it, I'll believe anything you say. That's kind of where we're at. I want to thread the needle and get the perfect blend between, there was a show called In Search Of with Leonard Nimoy back in the 70s, if anybody remembers. I want to thread the needle between that show, Cosmos with Carl Sagan, and that show with Jonathan Frakes where he rides in on a bicycle and asks a bunch of weird questions. Have you ever ordered a hot dog at a food truck? Call a plumber to your house lately? Do you like oranges? Do you like movies about gladiators? Beyond belief, fact or fiction. I figure if Frakes can show up to work every day and do something silly and just make this show, we should be able to do that too, at least. I'm just checking the chat here. So if I zone out, if I just zone out and like, anytime you see me just zone out, I'm just reading the chat. The camera's next to the computer. The computer's right in front of me. Oh, by the way, I don't have a co-host, but I have Alf. This is an OG Alf doll. Remember? Alf Gordon Shumway. This is the original. This is my Alf doll. He went through the dryer and Alf's fur melted a little bit, but I got Alf. I need to create an artificially intelligent, real-time 3D rendered Alf head that floats in a box, like Zombie in Pee-wee's Playhouse. You can just or a Blue Elizondo head, and I just ask it questions and it answers in riddles. I think that's what I want to do. Second time chatter, long time listener. Miss K's here. Chameleon UK. Thanks. Doing a great job. Appreciate that. I remember In Search of with Leonard Nimoy. Steve Bassett on Cosmic Road, Miss K. Steve Bassett on Cosmic Road said something about disclosure that actually makes sense. Pass UAP Disclosure Act 2.0 and Biden can do a disclosure before the end of his term. That is a great point. I wish that would happen. I don't know that it would happen, but man, wouldn't that be the best thing ever? I really thought somebody would try to interview Jimmy Carter earlier on about his story. And at one time, I remember bringing it up, and the idea, people were like, "Oh yeah, somebody should talk to Jimmy Carter about it," and I don't think that ever happened. So, how old is the Alf doll? It's got to be 1987, 1986, 87. Always read the labels, especially on laundry. Deep question, Clint. Where will humanity be in 10 years if we keep going the way we're going? I can't answer, man. I have an answer for you, and you're not going to like it. I'll show you. This is it together on a VHS tape, and he brings it in, and they watch it. And there was a whole song that went with that. Can't quite remember it, but okay. Lefty Batista, great statement here. We're at a point in the disclosure and alien stories that everything has plateaued. So it's just everybody talking about the same thing, and that kind of burns me out. I agree, and I think but I don't think that's actually what's going on. I think it feels that way on the outside, but if you look at the smoke signals, right? If you try to, you have to, what's the term? Back azimuth. You have to start with kind of what we can see and then work backwards from that. Carl Nell talking to the ISALT conference. Those the people in that audience were venture capitalists, hedge fund guys, investors who throw around a lot of money, and they have tremendous amounts to gain by having the inside track on next level technology. I think when you see them circling around somebody like a Carl Nell, and before the SALT conference, there was talk that David Grush had been invited to give a private presentation to a group of Wall Street hedge fund guys in New York in someone's apartment. And I don't know if anybody here remembers that, but that was a little blip that came across the radar, and it was a while ago. It was like 6 months ago. It was a while back. But when you see that, right, and then we hear Matthew Pines, whose background is in finance and digital currency and Bitcoin and investing strategy. There's a reason that you're seeing that. And my question to you guys today is, I mean, I'm not a finance expert. I'm not a technology expert. I'm just a guy who's looking and trying to connect some dots. And these are dots that seem very obvious to me. So my question for you is, if anybody watching has a background in finance or commercializing technology, my hunch is that they're going to try and roll out some of this technology to commercialize it. They're not going to disclose it and then just like put it out there for free. It's going to come with a price tag attached to it, and that's just business. So I think Wall Street is trying to get ahead of this stuff. And the reason I think what I just said is happening is because of the patents that Salvatore Pais put out that were registered with the U.S. Navy, which we're going to take a look at. These are UFO patents. These are probably the technologies that are going to come out. And I've been thinking about this a lot lately. And I think there's something going on there. So what do you guys think? Is there a connection? Could there be? And if there was, what would we look for? What could we what would we be able to spot? Like what kind of moves would happen out on the outside that we could detect that maybe would signal us that some really badass behind the scenes technology is about to be put out into service? When fishermen can't go to sea, they mend their nets. Sheehan's great. Christian Morales, there's a lot of money in this topic, man. We're talking about alien tech, and you look at Nell's background, he knows what he's talking about. Well, Nell's background is all private aerospace. Northrop Grumman, Lockheed, right? Wasn't he like 14 years? Upper management, senior management. Like by the way, like that's the type of people who are probably trying to like break some of this stuff off and get it out into public, right? That's it's going to be guys that are at that level who are looking around going, you know, we could really use some of this stuff right now. Imagine how much we could benefit the world and make a lot of money at the same time. I'm curious about what documentaries he's talking about that will come out to help push this forward. Well, Lou's book is called Imminent, and that's kind of, well, the clue is in the name, right? Carl Nell gave a presentation, and he's the one who I believe coined the term catastrophic disclosure, right? Catastrophic disclosure is an uncontrolled disclosure where it just comes out. What could cause a catastrophic disclosure? Another actor making a move, getting first mover advantage, a Chinese company demonstrating a functional anti-gravity aircraft. That might be that could shake things up. But I feel like our security people, our intel people, would see that coming, or maybe they have, maybe they already know, maybe that's what's going on. But something or a mass contact event that would be a catastrophic disclosure. Something that they can't control, they can't spin it. Really, it's just out of their hands, and there's no way to jujitsu flip the disclosure into what you need it to be. So if you're faced with a catastrophic disclosure or a controlled disclosure, and your controlled disclosure is starts with patenting some of the foundational technologies and then licensing your patents to every company who wants to use them and making unlimited money. It would be like a money fire hose forever, or for 20 years, at least until your patents expire, right? What are we on the cusp of doing right now, right? Think about where we're at. We're at a point in our in the timeline. We're at a point in development in the space um, business where it's become fully commercialized. It's now in the hands of private aerospace, private corporations, SpaceX, Blue Origin. Um, I guess, is Richard Branson still doing stuff? What's Virgin Galactic up to? And all these other companies that I don't know. These are just the ones that I can think of off the top of my head. And the next century is going to be about colonizing the solar system and mining resources off of asteroids and um, bringing that stuff back. They're already talking about putting a what do they call it? A street. I think they called it a street light on the moon. They want to put basically a gigantic cell phone tower on the moon that can be used with a big solar collection thing attached to it, and it can be used by individual like missions. Somebody wants to go to the moon, they need to stop and charge up their rover. You just plug into the big thing, and it's there, and it's for everybody to use. It would be a communications array. It would do a bunch of other things, but it would basically be like a first step in putting some infrastructure on the moon, so that as we start to go back and forth, we have a little bit more reliable system in place to support that. So if that's the direction that we're heading in, and you happen to be in upper management at a defense company that's been kind of in the background, just sort of like wink, wink, nudge, nudge, working on this stuff, and you maybe like got some of it figured out. Well, what makes more sense? Would you just lock that up forever and just never, ever, ever release any of it? That doesn't make any sense. At the end of the day, they're in the business of making money. So at some point, you go, well, it would be really cool if we could license this stuff out to all these companies who want to go mine the asteroid belt. Or if you want to go to Mars, what if we could do it in, what if you could get from here to Mars in 3 days? How much would that be worth to you? How much would it be worth at the dawn of a new era of expansionism where we're able to go out into our solar system and really start getting down to business? Be worth a lot of money. Oh, Shadow Patriot Terry, thank you. Super thanks from Shadow Patriot Terry. By the way, I have to shout out Patrick threw me an awesome super thanks uh, uh, as well, and I didn't thank him as much as I should have in the moment. I called him and thanked him, but I didn't. When I was doing it, there were so many messages going, my brain just shorted out. So thanks, Patrick. Christian Morales, thank you. Did you see Lou's ad for his book? It stars as humanity is approaching a moment that nothing in our evolution has prepared us for. What the fuck does that mean? Christian, I did watch that. And I just responded to the chat. But my answer is I think what Lou was getting at. Um, did anybody else? If you haven't seen this, now I saw it on Instagram. This is where I saw his ad. He's reading the book and he's talking about, and then he goes, yeah, it's at. He says something. It's a lose clues statement, but it's basically like eventually something huge is going to happen, and we're all going to have to deal with it. I've been saying that since day one. It's one of the reasons why I started this channel. I started to look around and I'm looking at all of these different statements coming out from people like John Ramirez, Elizondo, David Grush, all these different people, Jim Semivan, To the Stars Academy, Tom DeLonge, all this stuff. And a lot of people have been saying something is in the air, something's changed, something's different. There's a reason why all this has picked up so much speed since 2017, right? In 2017, in 2015, it wasn't really on most people's radar. If you were a UFO nerd like me or you guys, like we talked about it, but not most people didn't really think about it. It wasn't on the radar. And now, after 2017, you go look up every other week. Joe Rogan's got some UFO person. He's got James Fox on, or he's got David Grush, or he's got whatever. Bob Lazar. And these aren't small. These videos have 9, 10, 11, 20 million views. And there's like, and that's just whatever ones you happen to look up at the time. They've been cut up and recirculated so many times. So I think the topic has gone mainstream in a way that it's never been before. But something is propelling all of that forward. The Carl Nell slide that at the time was a leak from the Soul Foundation presentation that he gave talked about disclosure in stages. And it said, I think it was 2025. If anybody can find that slide and just send it to me in the chat, I'll see if I can look it up real quick. I've got this picture, but you can see the video, but there was a picture of him standing. Oh, here it is. Someone reconstituted this slide. Oh, okay. Can I just do this? Let's see. Let's take it from this window to here. Hang on. That's not the one. Trying to do this live on YouTube is so frustrating because it's like trying to run a PowerPoint presentation, manage a live chat by yourself, make sure your camera didn't run out of battery. Emails are blowing up at the same. I should probably close my email. Let's do that. Okay, here we go. All right. This is even funnier because it's from Stephen Greenstreet, which is weird. Okay, so let's see if this works now. If I turn this on. Okay, here we go. Stephen Greenstreet. Hold your applause, everybody. At the Soul Foundation UFO Symposium, Carl Nell presents lines of effort that moved humanity closer to alien truth. This includes NIDS, OSAP, two efforts that chased ghosts, werewolves, and Bigfoot at Skinwalker Ranch. The false 2017 New York Times article also played a role. Does anyone doubt that Stephen Greenstreet is on the take? Like, this guy is totally on the payroll. Okay, global alien disclosure. So this is the actual photograph. Someone took this photo and put it out, and you can see phase one, UAP campaign plans, lines of effort, LOES. Phase one, let's see, phase zero, shaping, NIDS, OSAP, ATIP, DoD video release, 2017 New York Times article, UAP task force, UAPTF. So phase zero, shaping, essentially framing the conversation, creating the data sets that you're going to use to build the case on everything else that's going forward, right? So you have these programs like OSAP and ATIP. The DoD video release is multiple independent sensor systems verifying the video. And then you have this video that's officially released, and that kind of puts it on the map. And now we're in real territory. We're talking about something real. And that is what it took to move the conversation from where we were before to where we are now. It had to go across that line. So that was stage zero. Phase one, demonstrate existence. Um, at the bottom here, it says reactive data approach, reactive, analytical approach, hypothesis generation, objective, government acceptance. Phase one is put it in people's heads, show them that it's real, and then start hypothesizing about what it could mean, what it could be. Phase two, correlate signatures down here at the bottom. Data approach, persistent, forensic. I hope I'm reading this right. It's kind of blurry. Academic acceptance. Phase two, academic acceptance. What does that mean? The Soul Foundation. What's the Soul Foundation doing? It's getting academic acceptance. Avi Loeb, Harvard University, academic acceptance. Avi Loeb and Gary Nolan go out and secure the perimeter of the academic world. They create a space for other people to start having high level discussions without fear of ridicule or losing their jobs or being thrown or having their tenure taken away. Anything like that. So that's what's happening in the academic world. Meanwhile, over in the legal world, you've got Danny Sheehan and the New Paradigm Institute basically acting as a lobbying arm for disclosure. And they're getting in contact with lawmakers. They're working the phones. They're having the conversations. They're gathering the evidence. They're talking to people. And they're trying to move the ball forward on that side. So that's phase two. That's where we are, or where we just were. Phase three, characteristics, performance. There's another version of this. Here we go. Characterize performance. I got the better one here. This is the recreated slide. Phase three, characterize performance. Proactive, predictive, public acceptance is the objective. Analytic approach, predictive. Data approach, proactive. I'm guessing proactive data approach means we start deploying civilian sensors, civilian observers. We start doing a little bit more of an organized job of gathering data for academics who are now going to start to seriously look at this stuff to start making connections. Just my read on this, but I could be totally wrong. Um, integrated analytic approach, Five Eyes acceptance, phase four, determine nature. Five Eyes must mean they have to get all five of the Five Eyes allies on board. So what are the Five Eyes? It's Australia, UK, the US. Who else? I have to check that. Maybe they all have to be in agreement for some reason. I don't know. Phase five, engagement. So phase four, October 2034, 1 October 2034 is the date they have for phase four. That's determine nature. Phase five, engagement. Interactive data approach, scientific discovery, analytic approach. Strategic end state is the objective. So they have disclosure by 1 October 2034. or catastrophic disclosure. Strategic in-state proper oversight restored must mean getting some congressional oversight into these crazy programs. And by pushing it out into the public, by making it public, by publishing the patents and getting the stuff out there, you kind of force everybody's hand, right? I hope that makes sense. As I'm just kind of like winging it with this stuff. Let's check the chat and see where everybody's at here. Oh, Christopher, you're on your way out. Or was Chameleon UK leaving? Whoever left, bye. We'll see you later. Shadow Patriot Terry gifted 5 Nightshift memberships. Thanks, Shadow Patriot Terry. Oh, that's great. You're a hero. Thank you so much. I'm zoning out because I'm reading your chat, so just bear with me. Hey, Glenn, I sent you those Dan Burrish documents a while ago. You said you sent them to Brian Jackson. Did he ever make any comment on them? Oh, yes. Irony, the Dan Burrish stuff. Yes, I did send those to Brian. He did look at them, and that was news to him. He had not seen them, and he was surprised. If we're talking about the same thing, I think we are. I'm going to have Brian back. I need to invite him back. I just haven't had the opportunity to have that conversation with him. So, Brian, if you're watching, I need to talk to you and get you back over here to do a follow up because that conversation is ongoing about Dan Burrish. Pebbles, zero doubt he sent Wall Street the message. Carl Nell said, zero doubt. When you watch that clip, it is so clear. It's first of all, it's clear that Carl Nell had this conversation earlier. Like they had already talked about all this stuff. None of these questions were new. He went in there knowing what they were going to ask him, and they went in there knowing what his answers were already going to be. So what you saw was, I think, a statement. It was like a prepared statement in the form of an interview, and it was designed to let people know there is zero doubt. So you can start shifting money around. You can start thinking about. You could start thinking about that. Yeah, where is the Grush op-ed? I don't know. Planet Algol. I would look for applications of anti-gravity or tractor pressure beams in warfare. We're going to talk about that in just a second. I actually have some stuff on that. Secret text. James Fox is releasing the program fairly soon. But should do a cosmic Road collab. I would do a Cosmic Road collab. I love Cosmic Road. Best UAP YouTube channel. Cool. I'd be curious to see what he made out of it, how he changes things. Big reason why government reluctant on this. I love that clip. Zero doubt. If we got Green Street and Carl Nell in a room, I'd pay money to see that. I think Carl Nell would tell Green Street to go fuck himself. I honestly think David Grush and Carl Nell would be. I don't think they have any kind of time for Green Street. I think we all know who Green Street works for, and I want to show you guys something about that. The remote viewers at Farsight, David Wint, the remote viewers at Farsight say all the unfolding crises in the world will soon allow the good ETs to intervene. Changing their current Cold War with bad ETs into a hot war seems catastrophic. Cosmic Road has some information about DARPA whistleblower. Gosh. All right. So much here. Let's dig into some patents and let's talk about that. Let's move this ball down the field a little bit and let's see if I can And I'm going to set the tone for what I'm about to show you. And I'm going to make another attempt to draw a connection between some things that I think are definitely connected, but I still have some people that need convincing. So I'm going to try again. Okay. I just talked about this the other day, and right after I talked about it on August 6th, here's an article. This is the Byte. Major Earth systems on track for collapse. I'm going to tie this to UFOs in about 5 minutes, so just stick with me. We're coming to UFOs, but we're going to take a walk through a collapsing ecosystem on our way there. This is what, by the way, this is, I think, the forcing function behind all the other stuff that you're seeing. Because where we're at right now is in a position that we have to deploy like super human level solutions that are going to make it possible for us to thread the needle. But this is kind of the level of crisis that we're actually at. And this information, we kind of had it a while ago. This is not really new, but it's new for a lot of people who haven't looked at this. Major Earth systems on track for collapse, scientists find. That's going to leave a mark. Imagine this dire scenario. The Atlantic Ocean's sea currents, which bring warm water to Europe, collapses, making large swaths of the continent as cold as the Arctic Circle. In a grim turn, that's just the scenario that a team of European scientists are warning about in a new study in the journal Nature Communications. That this catastrophic collapse, along with the ruination of the Amazon rainforest and the melting of polar ice, is on track to actually happen if we continue along our current path. Now, I'm going to go through the rest of this. We're just going to do the whole thing. So stick with me. Specifically, the scientists say that these major Earth systems, important for keeping the global climate stable for human civilization, face a 45% or greater chance, that's half, of collapsing in the next 300 years, even if we temporarily bring back global warming below the 1.5 degrees Celsius threshold, which we have already passed. This was the one they were saying, we're not going to pass this until 2040, 2050. We passed it this year. Worse, the collapse may be irreversible. Correction, the collapse will be irreversible. It's impossible that we dig out of that. Once it goes, it's gone. So the systems that underpin the survival of all of our other our entire civilization, the biological systems. The Earth is a living organism, right? It has lungs. It breathes in air. It exhales oxygen. It breathes in carbon dioxide. The oceans absorb enormous amounts of carbon dioxide. Like our entire planet is one jewel in this region of space that is abundant with life, and that life exists in this complicated dance with everything else on the planet. And our entire civilization has been built for a climate system that no longer exists. So as we move forward and we continue to burn millions of barrels of oil every day and start to add all of this extra carbon into the atmosphere, we have thrown the system completely out of balance. And as we've started to melt down or burn down the Amazon to raise food for cows and raise cattle, we've made it even harder for the system to recover. So there are these global tipping points that we're going to pass. And that's what they're talking about. And the 300-year timeline, I think, is generous. The researchers modeled a range of climate policies on carbon emission rates while inputting climate data on the Amazon rainforest, polar ice in Greenland and West Antarctica, and the Atlantic meridional overturning circulation. Say that 3 times fast, which regulates the flow of warm water from the tropics to Europe. Domestic policies to reduce emissions need to be adopted and implemented, not only pledged, and a more significant and urgent effort is needed to mitigate the risks associated with tipping elements, the scientists wrote. So, pushed by global warming, the likely melting of polar ice caps and transformation of the Amazon rainforest into dry savanna would worsen an already bad situation. The scientists call for urgently bringing carbon emissions to zero. To zero would mean everything that you understand about the way you live your life today changes completely overnight. I mean, you would like no more planes flying, no more cars. All that stuff's got to stop. The which isn't going to happen, and I think everybody understands that. Which is my point. They're telling us the solution is to turn off the entire industrial machine that we rely on to keep everything going. No one's going to do that. So guess what that means? The train is moving towards the cliff, and it's not slowing down. It's probably speeding up. So that's where we're at. Okay. So now, let me grab this other tab. And we're going to look at some patents from Salvatore Pais. I hope I'm saying his name right. And here we go. All right, this is an article from the Debrief. So why am I talking about climate change so much? Why don't I shut up about climate change? Because you have to ask yourself some serious questions about UFO UAP activity. What do we know, right? Like what do we know about what we've seen so far for the last 75 years? We know that these things are interested in two things, really. They're really interested in two things: nuclear weapons and kids. Has anybody else made that connection? Nuclear weapons and kids. Weird. They're interested in a lot of things, but they're specifically very focused on nuclear weapons and kids. The nuclear weapons thing makes sense. That I get, right? They're probably here on this planet. My sense is that they're a progenitor civilization that's probably been here a lot longer than us. And because they share this planet with us, they care about what it is that we're doing to it. Nuclear weapons are game over. Like if we launch into some kind of nuclear Armageddon, then that takes them out of the equation. So of course they care about that. But when they talk to kids, when they abduct kids, when they interact with kids, when they land and they get out and they talk to children, or they have these telepathic downloads with kids, the message is almost always the same: take care of your planet, take care of the ecosystem, don't let technology destroy your planet, watch the earth, care for it, understand that it's delicate and you have to protect it. Like that's the message. Okay. So if that's the message, and what we can see is they're demonstrating a real concern over like what we're doing with this biosphere, it makes sense to assume that they're as invested in preserving it as we are, which suggests that they probably live here too. And that's why I'm kind of leaning towards that hypothesis. But to go back to this, Salvatore Pais published a number of patents in the last 3 years. This is the Debrief article. This was by is this Mika Hanks? Micah? No, Bernard Castro. Sorry, Bernard. Here's the first paragraph. Over the past few years, much of the talk in the UAP community has revolved around Brett Tingley's reporting of unusual patent applications by Dr. Salvatore Cesar Pais, an aerospace engineer at the Naval Air Warfare Center Aircraft Division, NAWCAD. Among those patents are a plasma compression fusion device that promises to generate practically unlimited amounts of clean energy with a small reactor. Remember what we said in our last episode: unlimited, clean, free, more close to free energy, plus advanced robotics means that the costs of goods and services goes down to basically the costs of raw materials and logistics. So you're going to see you're going to see some major shit happen when if that's something that is workable. So that's plasma compression fusion device that promises to generate practically unlimited amounts of clean energy with a small reactor. Sound like a solution for climate change? Sounds like one to me, especially if we have to pull carbon out of the atmosphere at a tremendous amount, tremendously fast. You have to do it at scale. So you have to have unlimited power. Means it's basically free to start doing that. The next patent, a high-frequency gravitational wave generator. We're going to look at these in just a second, that promises to harvest the power of gravity. and a craft using inertial mass reduction device that promises to revolutionize transportation. A high frequency gravitational wave generator, a plasma compression fusion device, and an inertial mass reduction device. Those are the three technologies that make Star Trek really possible. I come back to Star Trek all the time on this, but it's just true. I think that's like, think about it. So here's Salvatore Pais. Salvatore Caesar Pais is an American aerospace engineer and inventor. He's got tons of interviews on YouTube. I would have pulled some clips, but I just didn't have time today. Go on YouTube, type in his name, watch his interviews. Currently working for the United States Space Force. The clue is in the name. He formerly worked at the Naval Air Station Patuxent River. His patent applications for the U.S. Navy attracted attention for their potential energy-producing applications, but also doubt about their feasibility and speculation that they may be scams, pseudoscience, or disinformation intended to mislead the United States adversaries. This whole last part doesn't make any kind of sense. Our adversaries aren't going to be misled by some patents. They have more sophisticated ways of finding out what they want to know. They're not waiting for us to patent shit so that they can figure out what it is that we're doing. Believe me, that's not the reason. Salvatore Pais attended Case Western Reserve University in Ohio, getting an MS in 1993 with a thesis titled Design of an Experiment for Observation of Thermocapillary Convection Phenomena in a Simulated Floating Zone Under Microgravity Conditions. He got a PhD in Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering in 1999 with a thesis on the subject of bubble generation under reduced gravity conditions for both co-flow and cross-flow configurations, for which he endured a number of parabolic flights to produce a low-gravity environment. His doctoral advisors were Yasuhiro Kamotani and Simon Ostrach, who carried out space lab experiments in low gravity aboard the space shuttle in 1992, STS-50. Pais's research was sponsored by NASA. So that's the man we're talking about. Check it out. Here's his patent. Google, you can go on Google Patents and you can type this in. US 101-44532B2. You could download the PDF. Craft using an inertial mass reduction device. 2 images. What does that look like? Does that look like a TR-3B? Ah, somebody's song. But that's the TR-3B right there, right? I'm not saying I know that this is the patent, but look, there it is. So, abstract. A craft using an inertial mass reduction device comprises of an inner resonant cavity wall, an outer resonant cavity, and microwave emitters. The electrically charged outer resonant cavity wall and the electrically insulated inner resonant cavity wall form a resonant cavity. The microwave emitters create high frequency electromagnetic waves throughout the resonant cavity, causing the resonant cavity to vibrate in an accelerated mode and create a local polarized vacuum outside the outer resonant cavity wall. It's obvious. Anybody could tell. The invention described herein may be manufactured and used by or for the government of the United States of America for governmental purposes without payment of any royalties thereon or therefore. And then it goes into the background with a little bit more of a detailed explanation and exploration of the way this thing works. So this is one patent. Craft using an inertial mass reduction device. My read on that is you sit inside the craft, you go as fast as you want to go in any direction, you stop on a dime, you turn, you make a 90-degree turn, you go 6,000 miles an hour in the other direction, and instead of dying and turning into pink mist, you just sit there. And it looks like a crazy video game on the outside of your window, but you feel nothing, or you feel almost nothing, and the craft is just zipping around like crazy. One of the 5 observables, right? Here's his second patent, or the second one I have here. US 201-90210, US 201-902-95733A1. Abstract, a plasma compression fusion device which includes a hollow duct and at least one pair of opposing counterspinning dynamic fusers. The hollow duct includes a vacuum chamber disposed within the hollow duct. Each dynamic fuser has a plurality of orifices. Well, that's interesting. And an outer surface which is electrically charged. Magnetic energy flux, of course. An electromagnetic radiation within the vacuum chamber. I thought so. Yeah, I almost patented this myself. He beat me to it. That's all right. We'll get him next time. Plasma compression fusion device. It's a modular fusion reactor. There was discussion years ago about, I think it was, I want to say it was Lockheed, but it's somebody, one of the defense companies was, they announced it. There was a video on their website about a fusion reactor the size of a tractor trailer that could fit on the back of a truck. And they said they had developed this in-house and that they were going to release it. I'll see if I can find it. But this is, reminds me of that. High frequency gravitational wave generator. Application filed by the U.S. Department of the Navy. Right there. Application filed by U.S. Department of Navy. Assigned to Department of the Navy. Plasma compression fusion device. High frequency gravitational wave generator. U.S. Department of the Navy. Inertial mass reduction device. U.S. Department of the Navy. So there you go. Navy UFO patent documents talk of space-time modification, weapon detail experimental testing. And this is from thewarzone.com. What is the date on this? January 26, 2021. In our continuing investigation into the bizarre inventions of Dr. Salvatore Cesar Pais, an enigmatic aerospace engineer who works for the U.S. Navy, the Warzone has just obtained a wide range of documents detailing experiments that the Naval Air Warfare Center Aircraft Division, NAWCAD, conducted to test the core concepts and technologies underlying his seemingly out-of-this-world UFO patents, air quotes on UFO patents. These same patents were vouched for by the head of the Navy's aerospace research enterprise, who cited Chinese advances in similar technologies as one of the reasons why the Navy was filing them. There's your catastrophic disclosure. Didn't I just say that? We were just talking about that. What if somebody else just disclosed first? And then what if it's China? You want to see people really lose their shit? Watch China disclose that they've got functional anti-gravity craft, and then they've one up us on AI. They create artificial superintelligence first. They get to it first, and you'll see some heads explode. Like that'll change the whole global landscape really fast. Oh, okay, let me go back to the chat. Where are we, guys? I'm so sorry. I'm like reading all this stuff and I haven't checked the chat. Ronnie says, Clint, Jesse Michaels has a great video on all of this, the work of anti-gravity in the mid-20th century electrostatic effects, the work of Townsend Brown, and even how the B-2 may use this on its wings. Yeah, there's something about the B-2, the runway is too short, right, for the B-2 to actually be able to do what it does. So it's able to take off. Hang on a second, gang. I got to stand up for 1 second. I'll be right back. Let's go to break. 30 seconds. I'll be right back. Okay, we're back. Sorry, I had to open my dog was flipping out. So my understanding of patents is that you can't just patent something that sounds cool. You have to demonstrate that it's a workable concept, and you have some kind of proof of concept that you can show an independent third party. I I only barely know this, and I only know it because I just spoke recently with somebody who's patented some technology stuff of their own, and they've been through this process, and that's how it was explained to me. Does anybody else understand this process? Can you just patent stuff, or do you have to have a functional demo? If you're saying you have an anti-gravity device, do you have to show it to the patent office and show that it works? And they have to, like, does somebody have to come along and sign off on that? How is the US Navy granted a patent on something if it's impossible or can't work? It's unworkable. Any thoughts on that? That's the best music. Thanks, KT. I try. Patent is terribly nebulous. Working demos are not required for patents. Okay. Yes and no. You have to describe and show your work for it, not necessarily have a working model. Brett is correct. If it's the military industrial complex, you're safe. But if it's outside, yeah, it's if you're like Jim Trout from Skokie, Illinois, and you've created an anti gravity device in your garage, good luck. But I guess if you're the Department of the Navy, you roll up into the patent office and you're like, "We're going to need some patents," and they're like, "Yes, sir, right this way." Uh, there's so much more on that to mention. That wouldn't be one of them to put at the top. Um, so that's the case. That's the case I'm making. My case is that despite the noise that you hear in uh, the media environment and how confusing the whole climate change situation is, I think it's actually very simple, very straightforward, and I don't think it's confusing at all. And I think the people that understand that are in a position to pull the lever on disclosure, are going to pull the lever on some of this stuff. I also think that there is a danger of somebody else one-upping us on a bunch of different technologies, and there's a lot of fear about that right now. So that's probably what's motivating the release, the limited release of some of this technology. But it's going to have to be controlled. It's going to have to be done in a way that's organized and that accounts for everybody's profit margins along the way. And this is a question I would love to ask Danny Sheehan. I'd love to dig into this with Sheehan about what is the what is the legal landscape for um, how does that work when we're talking about stuff that is so exotic, such technologies as like a plasma fusion device? Like, how does that, um, you know, patenting this stuff just protects your intellectual property and your profits, and it gives you that sort of controlled monopoly for a period of 20 years, is it? So the only reason you'd really do it is to keep somebody else domestically from doing it first, and to make sure you make money off of it, right? So I imagine Sheehan's got a lot to say on this, and I would love to talk to him. There we go. Am I back? Can you hear me? Okay. Sorry about that, gang. I had to jump up for a quick second. The men in black are in your computer. I'm back. So, I don't know. What do we think? Do we think that is there a case to be made? Do you think that's what's going on? Who thinks Wall Street is pushing this forward? Or who thinks there's a connection besides me? Is it just me? Can you hear me now? Hello, hello. Wall Street. Okay, Brett, you can hear me. All right. Wall Street is absolutely involved. Absolutely. Follow the money. KT says, follow the money. Irony. Yep. Think tanks and Wall Street. Yeah. Think tanks and Wall Street. They're the ones who are going to make the decision. The government will find out after Wall Street makes their decision. They will inform the government what comes next, and it'll be in that order. That's the way it works. And if by the time the president goes out and has anything to say about it, it'll all be already out in the open. And I think it'll be kind of. I wonder if they're going to just try to play it off like it's no big deal. And they're just going to say, like, see, all this UFO stuff is so silly because, like, we've got this anti gravity stuff. We built this. It was just, they can come out with this technology and use it to sort of turn the conversation away from non human technology. Paris Diamonds, welcome to I Want to Believe. You're a member. Thank you so much for being here. Clay Weber says, Clint, it's 100% the Wall Street bros pushing this. I think China has already made the breakthrough. Well, yeah, that's possible. They have to monetize this tech somehow, and they'll be on the front lines. Clay Weber. Cole Watkins in the house. Colio. Can Wall Street give me the flying car I was promised when I was 5 by every single future documentary? Private industry and old money rules the day. Gravity engines are well. I mean, they've been working on gravity since the 50s. That's widely known. You can go see T. Townsend Brown's videos. You can see the electrogravitics discs whipping around that thing in the lab. My understanding was that just at the time it was getting the power source figured out. They actually had the gravity part kind of cracked, but it was like, how do you power it? They need so much power to really run it. And I remember reading in what was the book? Was it Beyond Zero Point, or it was the one about the Nazi bell that they had developed? That they had this test space where the thing had to be tethered to like a big concrete. I don't know what you would call it, but it was basically like a launch pad kind of, but it had to be tethered because they had to feed power to it to keep it going. They couldn't really just get it off the ground and get it to fly on its own. I could have that wrong, but this is just something I remember from way back when. But my understanding is that the gravity part wasn't as hard as the energy part. It was the energy part that was the big bottleneck. Do you have any information about time travel? Christine 41. Thank you very much for your answer. Apparently Brown was purposely depowering his demos to cover up how advanced the tech was. Srawat, can you imagine the legal hassle for Lockheed lying to its shareholders about having alien tech for years? Lawsuits would be crazy. Well, the time travel thing is interesting because I guess if you control gravity, if you have technology that can control gravity, you kind of have technology that can control time, right? If you can get close to the speed of light, the time dilation effect sort of takes care of time travel in a weird way. Like you can go forward in time because you would just go out into space, you would accelerate, you would go really fast, and then time, just like in Interstellar, right? It would pass more slowly for you than for everybody else on the outside. There was a choose your own adventure book about this, by the way. But I guess you could go, I don't know, do a few laps and then come back to an Earth that has passed, 20,000 years would have passed for us, and maybe it's only a few weeks for you. I think government is not immune from lawsuits. Project Looking Glass, yeah, Project Looking Glass is interesting. Brett Higgins, you're absolutely right. They will grandfather everyone involved with immunity like the Whistleblower Act. That's gonna be part of the price tag that comes with this. I believe that's gonna be part of the that's gonna be on their must-have list. Full immunity. We control the patents. We get to license the technology for 20, maybe even more than that. What did Disney do with Mickey Mouse? Didn't they extend their patent out for like how many years? Um, I'm sure it's going to be the biggest sweetheart deal ever. But then the technology will be out there and at least it'll be available. Shadow Patriot Terry. Send lawyers, guns, and money. Warren Zevon. I love it. One of my favorite songs. Paris Diamonds. I recently watched the Lazar Bible video. He explained bending time. Oh, Disney claimed the modern Mickey was technically a different character than the original. Um, yeah, the government classifying math and physics. This is all part of the same thing. I think it's all part of the same thing, right? I mean, it's almost like you can see the out like if you just zoom out from all the redacted stuff and you look at it from a distance, you can see the outline of this program and you can you can basically see like they started working on gravity stuff back in the 50s. They classified a bunch of that stuff. All those researchers disappeared. They were publishing articles in magazines. They were like gravity drives, we're going to do all this stuff, and then it just goes completely dark and we don't hear anything about it, and for the next 40, 50, 60 years things just go on. But in the background, meanwhile, all this stuff is being perfected. It's being worked on. It's being tested. A lot of those sightings are that people think are UFOs or domestic craft that have been developed here, just like Stephen Greer says. That's been going on. And now, after 60, 70 years of that, they're at a point where it's like, well, what what are we going to do? We're just going to keep it locked up forever? We've got billions of dollars invested in reverse engineering this stuff. We need to start doing something with it. So what do? You go to you patent it. You get the stuff out there so that you can at least turn the conversation away from UFOs and you can start talking about the technology. You can start making some deals. You go to a few very wealthy, very powerful Wall Street type people are going to be in the know. They're going to be in the loop on all this stuff. So they're going to start talking to their friends and their people, and they're going to be getting their ducks in a row. And so all you have to really do is watch the smart money and watch the technology guys and see kind of where they're going. And then you look at the disclosure conversation over here. That's running side by side. These two things are happening in parallel. They're tied together behind the scenes, but you just can't see that part. And as you see this start to roll out, one day it'll just be like this, what was it, the stealth bomber, when they released that back in, what was it, 1992? When did they declassify that? When was that revealed? It was right during the first Gulf War. Um, they were like, oh, by the way, we happen to have all this stuff. Look at all the first Gulf War was crazy because they just revealed all these weapons. Like, what was the first time we saw drones really what we would consider a modern drone, and all this stuff. So maybe they're waiting for an opportunity to release that stuff again, and it's going to be something like that, where they just kind of reveal it, and then they're going to be like, "Oh yeah," they're going to totally gaslight all of us. They're going to be like, "We've had this shit forever." Like, "Oh, you didn't know about this? Yeah, this is like 30 years old, and we just now declassified it." So yeah, oh yeah, we have anti gravity. Doesn't the stealth bomber use the B. Phil Brown effect on its wings? Work with UAVs in the British Army. I'm thinking they have timed this rollout precisely. Shadow Man, I don't know enough about physics and the science in this field to have an opinion about what could or could not be public information. You go to, we talked recently about Huntsville, Alabama, where the, what is the group? Huntsville Scientific Coalition for UAP Studies. Huntsville, Alabama, the Rocket City, the city that won the space race. It's filled with brainiac people who work on aerospace research and propulsion and all of these advanced technologies. It's also where the Scientific Coalition for UAP Studies is based. Here we go. The Scientific Coalition for UAP Studies is a think tank of scientists, researchers, and professionals. Remember that Carl Nell slide we just looked at? Stretching across organizations, governments, and industries to scientifically and publicly explore the anomalous phenomena known around the world as UAPs, UFOs, USOs, and OVNIs. Our work. We conduct, promote, and encourage the rigorous scientific examination of unidentified aerospace phenomena, commonly known as unidentified flying objects. We utilize scientific principles, methodologies, and practices in the study of unidentified aerial phenomena observed and reported around the globe. We provide scientific case analysis to support witness cases and other scientific organizations and government entities who are looking for the certitude of facts for this phenomenon. Here's Lou. Richard Hoffman, Robert Powell. Richard Hoffman has a BA in organizational communication from Wright State University, as an information technology consultant and strategist, currently working as an enterprise architect at Redstone Arsenal and the Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville, Alabama. He has over 50 years of experience in the research and investigation of UAP phenomena. Robert Powell, 28 years of experience in engineering and management in the semiconductor industry, and has managed a state-of-the-art chemistry lab and an R&D group that worked on nanotechnology using atomic force microscopes and near-field optical microscopy. Robert also co-authored the reports on Stephenville Lights and the UAP 2013 Aguadilla, Puerto Rico event. Dr. Paul Kingsbury, Larry Hancock, Peter Really, Dr. Laura Domin, Dr. Doug Bettner. I hope I'm saying that right. This is the team, Huntsville, Alabama. And who else is in Huntsville, Alabama? Huntsville Business Journal. Didn't I just tell you about this the other day? There's Ning Lee, anti-gravity researcher. There's the disc. Superconducting disc that has some kind of way that it reduces the effect of gravity on objects above the disc. And what's the name of the articles? The Mystery of Huntsville's Brilliant Anti-Gravity Scientist. Dr. Ning Lee's son talks about his mom's career and legacy, along with the internet's obsession with her disappearance. She has a video, and if you click this video...
Today's video.
Well, there's a video, I should say there's a video of her doing this presentation.
Then that's very controversial. I know a lot of people criticize it, but fortunately nobody found any mistake in my papers. So just about no mistake, but people don't believe it. I know until I got an experimental result, I can show people.
And before I try...
So she's in Huntsville, well, was in Huntsville, Alabama, and Amy Eskridge, Institute for Exotic Science. A brilliant mind left us when Amy Catherine Eskridge went to her eternal rest in the Lord on Saturday, June 11th, 2022. At just age 34, Amy had already had a beautiful vision for life and the cosmos. She had a genius for science and questioned the conventional wisdom on everything from the universe to nanoparticles of the atom. She gave a presentation, a YouTube interview where she said that they've been sitting on anti-gravity technology for years. They not only one, but they have many examples of stuff they've developed that can do incredible things. First of their kind prototypes that you switch it on, it works exactly the way you thought it would. It does exactly what you thought it would do the very first time. And then she was saying how they would when researchers would apply for more funding, the Office of Divestment from NASA would come in, buy the or just take the project, and they would shut it down, and then they would send it to um, scrap metal dealers to be sold. I'm assuming because these things had a lot of valuable uh, components that were made out of exotic stuff. That's just my guess. Yeah, Amy Eskridge's presentation has a slide on Ning Li and a slide on the TR3B. That's weird. But in that presentation, which I've watched all the way through, she's basically just giving a recap of the history of anti-gravity research and some of the more well-known cases, and sort of painting a picture of like this is the world of anti-gravity research. So I don't think she was actually saying like I know for a fact these things have, like, she's not. My impression was that she wasn't saying she had laid hands on a TR3B or knew anybody who'd worked on one. She was just using that photograph as an example of one of the current the current examples of how it's discussed in popular culture. Like this is something that we talk about, and we're talking about anti-gravity, but this has been seen by a lot of people. Marcus X Art, she passed away. Yes, she passed away under very mysterious circumstances. And what's really interesting about that is that she passed away right after giving this very bizarre interview where she said that it's a 3 hour long interview, and in that interview, one of it's two guys who are interviewing her, and only one of the two guys has audio for most of the thing. So the other guy, we can't hear his questions, but we can hear her responses. And she has like a 5 minute little clip in the middle of this interview where she says basically they are aware of tons of these technologies that have been developed but then shelved. And basically, what her group was trying to do, the Institute for Exotic Science, was a group that was trying to get the brain power behind all of these projects that never went anywhere. It's like, well, if they didn't do anything with these projects, then she could just get all the researchers together who worked on this stuff, and they still had all their knowledge and understanding, so they could just get to work on other things and start doing it in house. Supposedly, like many of these stories, they had arranged some kind of funding and they were going to work towards commercializing this technology. And then right after that interview, she passes away, and that's kind of the mystery of Amy Eskridge. So the question then is, okay, that was 2022. And here we are in 2024, halfway through 2024, or we're coming up on the back half of 2024, and we see Wall Street getting involved. We see Bitcoin people getting involved. We start to hear conversations about patents that have been put out. Those Navy patents from Salvatore Pais. The dates on these: worldwide application 2018, 2019, that was the plasma compression fusion device. 2016 was the craft using an inertial mass reduction device. 2017 was the high frequency gravitational wave generator. These are the application dates filed by the U.S. Department of the Navy. I mean, I don't know. It's not a John, I'm not, sounds like a John Grisham novel, I guess, but it's like a lot of people have disappeared for claiming to have this technology. And now we're starting to see the patents come out. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's just that simple. Maybe that's really all there is to it. Like that's what's making disclosure happen. Just a spitball in here. I saw one thing on her. Not sure how she died though. I'm not sure either, and I don't want to speculate. But I've heard a couple of different things, and I don't know which one's true. Um, by the way, Brett, talking about the next generation communications technologies, the Irish astronomer Eamon Ansbro, where is he? There it is. I spelled it wrong. Okay. Um, So Eamon Ansbro is an Irish astronomer who has suggested that we're under some kind of automated surveillance system, and he actually published a paper, I think it was like 20 years ago, where he said that you can actually predict when and where you're going to see some UAP events because they've got enough data where they've basically been able to like work backwards and figure out that there's some kind of automated system that's in place that's sending drones out to sort of observe. Like if we are in a zoo and the AI in charge of observing the zoo and making sure we don't blow everything up is just on this automated sort of um, cycle. And so it sends out craft. They go around, they do a scan of an area or whatever it is that they do, and then they go back. And Eamon Ansbro says that apparently these movements can be predicted, and they've got a whole system in place for doing this. There's a great interview. It's like 2 hours long. I think it was Tim Ventura actually who did a really good interview with him, and he talks about it in detail. And he says, according to his research and the stuff that he's working on, the communications that would be necessary for a system like this to actually work would have to be built on some type of quantum entanglement. So, like a quantum system where particles entangled at both ends would let you have, I guess, instantaneous communication regardless of distance, because you're just taking advantage of entanglement. So, if two entangled particles can be unlimited distance apart and react instantly to a change in state from one to the other, if they're entangled, then if you had enough of those, I mean, I guess with just one you could do some kind of Morse code, couldn't you? There'd be some kind of primitive way to just send information back and forth. But if you could entangle multiple different particles and you could build a communication system off of the back of that, then in theory you could have instant communication from anywhere to anywhere, right? So if you were on Mars and you had one of these systems, you could be talking in real time to somebody in San Diego or whatever. It wouldn't really matter. His interview is really good. If you go on YouTube and type in Eamon Ansbro, um, you'll find it. I think it's Tim Ventura's channel, and he talks about it. I'm just kind of, it's my ham-handed explanation of his very detailed explanation. Okay. Quantum entanglement, binary. You just need one particle pair plus a really fast bit rate. I need quantum internet connection. I'd like to see that. Sorry, Steve Burrows. Sorry if I missed it. Can Amy's lengthy interview be found somewhere? Brief. Okay, so quick pro tip. when you guys search online, don't use Google anymore. You can't use Google. Google's not going to help you. You need to go to DuckDuckGo and run your searches on DuckDuckGo. I think DuckDuckGo runs off of Bing, but if I type in Amy Eskridge into DuckDuckGo and I run a video search, here we go. We go to DuckDuckGo, Amy Eskridge videos. And here you go. Like all that stuff you won't find on YouTube. YouTube hides all this shit. Because YouTube is Google and Google hides all this stuff. But DuckDuckGo can see through it for now, at least. And so you'll get her 29 minute and 50-second anti-gravity research part institute part of 1 of 2. There's 2 parts to this. This is where she talks about Ning Li, the TR3B, these 2 right here. Here's the full one. It's 1 hour and 6 minutes. Anti-gravity scientists released a confession. This is someone else's video talking about it, but you can see Jeremy Rice and Mark. This is the full interview. It's 3 hours, 15 minutes, and 34 seconds. And if you want to watch the entire thing, that's where she sets it all up. What's interesting about this interview is that she's drinking heavily throughout the whole interview, and she's pretty wasted. So like she's loose and talking about stuff that somebody didn't want her talking about. But she talks about being threatened by intelligence people and having intelligence people follow her around and break into her place and go through her things and like what that experience was like. It's really, really creepy and interesting, but it makes you not want to dig too deeply into this. She talked about weird radiation burns that she had and some kind of like strange symptoms that sounded to me like Havana syndrome. Like just like really weird symptoms. And if you go back and watch it, you'll see. I may have to pull a clip from that, but like they had deployed some kind of weird system against her. But I don't know. I just don't know very much, and I hate to speculate on someone who's not here anymore. But it's weird. It's just really weird. And if you're into this stuff, it's kind of hard not to notice some of the weirdness here. Let's see if this is the clip. If I can get this to play.
And let me tell you, I'm in Huntsville, Alabama. I know I've said that several times. We're the Rocket City. We're the biggest deal you've never heard of. Von Braun was here and we won the space race. We developed the Saturn V here. We built the Saturn V here. We won the space race here in Alabama, whether you've heard of it or not. And I can tell you for a fact, so many prototypes. Only prototype built like this in the world. You turn it on the first time, it works exactly like you thought it would the first time. Great data. You apply for more funding to test it more thoroughly, they cancel it. It goes to NASA divestment. It goes to the auction block. People bid on it. And literally scrap metal vendors win the bid and melt it down for scrap metal and sell it. We could be crazy far. We could be on the moons of Jupiter. We could be exploring Pluto that isn't even a planet anymore if we had spent money differently. I can tell you the names of so many NASA scientists that are depressed and they want to kill themselves because they have built prototype after prototype after prototype in Huntsville, Alabama. First in the world, never before seen, worked the first time you turned it on exactly like you thought. And it was canceled and melted down for scrap metal.
What do you say? Aqua Dragon. It's weird that anyone who speaks out about their experiences working on any of these secret ops goes missing. It's actually becoming quite obvious what's happening. Well, the plot thickens a little bit because one of the things that she highlights in her talk is that Huntsville, Alabama, and I haven't even checked these numbers. I should probably check. Huntsville, Alabama. All right. So she says that the Huntsville, Alabama population is at something like 200,000 people, and something like 5 or 6,000 of those are intelligence people, agents, and not just from our side, but from all over the world. That they're here to basically spy on the research that's happening in Huntsville, Alabama, in university stuff and private aerospace, like. And then she says a lot of these people aren't exactly like that. You know, it's not like James Bond stuff. It's like the spy is your mechanic, or it's the air conditioning repair guy, or it's, you know, it's the secretary, or it's the person who makes your coffee. Who, you know, it's um, she talks about it in really weird terms, but stuff that sounds like it makes a lot of sense. And she's just like, yeah, this town is loaded with intelligence people, and they're all spying on each other all the time. And everybody's trying to figure out like what everybody else is up to. And there's all this anti-gravity research, and it's just really weird. And then, you know, her story is whatever it is. I don't have all the details on it, but from what I've seen, like that's what I've seen. And I'm looking at it and I'm going, well, that's weird. Somebody should. I don't want to keep digging at it, but it's hard to ignore. There's a there. I agree, Brett. There's a there. Um, okay, gang. So that's that's kind of my time for today. I have to kind of wrap it up here, but I want to leave you with another question. Let's just leave it on a little bit more of a fun note. One of the things that I was thinking about when I watched that Bob Lazar teaser trailer for the Bob Lazar movie, it got me going through. I started to watch Bob's old interviews and stuff, and it occurred to me like somebody is someone is the first person to walk inside of a UFO. There's someone out there historically who was the first person to set foot inside of an intact craft, right? Someone had to be. Someone, when they opened one of these up, who was it that was the, they just put out a book recently and they said they had gained access to the interior of at least one craft. And this person was a really well-known researcher. And I was thinking about that, and I'm like, Bob Lazar talked about going inside this craft and how it was kind of like everything was formed out of one piece and there were almost no moving parts, and it was really weird. And it got me thinking, what must it have felt like to be the first person? You get one of these things open and you look inside and someone's got to walk in there. Pure balls. Like, what would that have felt like? And what are the acoustics like inside one of these things? They must be amazing. And I often wonder, like, a total, if you're working in this facility and you've got a craft and it's open and it's just there and everybody's working on it, you know, or whatever, there's a crew of people that's working on this thing. Do you think anybody ever played some music inside one of these? What music do you think was what is the first song you think someone fired up like, do you think someone took a boombox in there and like fired up some tunes just to see what it would sound like? And what would they have listened to? Like, what was the first track? And what if it was something really weird? Like, I don't know. I could see somebody like playing Beach Boys in there or what. I mean, just imagine the acoustics inside of a UFO. Yeah. Unfortunately the Lazard thing was not it's not really happening, but it should happen. I wish it would. Not just some science dude. Children of the Sun. That's great. That's great. I was thinking like Van Halen. John C. Bro, how do you walk inside a craft like that and still live a normal life? My care for any problems would disappear. Lakatsky did totally penetrate the hard metal of UFO. Good for him. Crazy, crazy train. That'd be great. Oh my God. Can you imagine like Ozzy, Starman, Starman, Dayman? Just discovered your channel. This is one of the best UFO channels on YouTube. Hey, well, thanks, John Ramsey. Welcome. I'm glad you're here. Clutch, Space Grass, Earth, Wind, and Fire, Land Called Fantasy. Give me your best. Leave these in the comments, guys. Like, keep these coming. But I want to know, like, what song would you play if you could get inside of a UFO? That's a night shift move, by the way. That's what the night shift's all about. It's the guys working late at night. You know, everybody else has gone home. There's like 4 guys there. Somebody goes in, fire up their sound system. Ground control to Major Tom. Escape from the prison planet. Nice. Marvin Gaye, Space Odyssey. Hawkwind. Ooh, Hawkwind. Planet Algal. Hawkwind's great. Wow. I got another Hawkwind guy. Bowie, Life on Mars. Hendrix, Purple Haze. Beastie Boys, Ill Communication. Great one. Pink Floyd. I'm going with Pink Floyd. I'm going with that. But which Pink Floyd song? Comfortably Numb. Oh, Mysterious History. You got me hooked on Pi. Love it way better than ChatGPT. Thanks. Freebird. Boston. Cool the Engines. Go Ask Alice by Jefferson Airplane. Star Wars theme. Space Ritual. Rocket Man. Great Gig in the Sky. Great one. Great Gig in the Sky. Dark Side of the Moon. The whole album. Welcome to the Machine. Night Moves. Star Trek theme. Loud. Lord McCormick. Great one. Taylor Swift. Sister Christian. Oh, Space Cow. Right on, Christian. Was it Sister Christian? Who was it in the end of Boogie Nights, where they're going to buy cocaine from that guy, and it's like it's Marky Mark, and it's who else is with him? They go in to buy the cocaine, and there's the one the kids like running around throwing firecrackers around, and everybody's like super nervous, and he's like, oh, that's Cosmo, he's Chinese. But they're listening to Sister Christian, or was it Night Ranger? I forget what song it was, but it's got that build. Inca Roads, Zappa, Neil Young, Rockin' in the Free World, Motorin', Killing Jokes, the Hums, I'm Your Captain. According to Dan Burrish, they're really big on playing Neil Diamond on Janet Airlines. Does anybody remember that bit? He talked about that. He said when you're flying out there to the base, they play Coming to America. Neil Diamond, Coming to America. That's what they play. And it's some kind of weird tradition that they do. It's a thing. And they play that music because I guess it's something to talk about how these things are coming to America, or I think they're just coming to Earth, but happens to be America when they get here, I guess. Or we're the ones shooting them down. Crime in the City, great one. What's the other Neil Young one that's really, well, there's so many. It's going to be here all day. Highway to Hell. Yeah, well, next, look, it's almost 4:00. I am going to jump off, guys. I've got to run, but we'll come back next week. We'll plug into a Marshall stack. We'll ride the lightning, and we'll figure out what kind of music you'd play in a UFO. But this has been a really great show. It's Freestyle Friday. Oh, I'm going to wrap it with one thing. I've been telling Brett I'm going to do this, and I haven't done it twice already. I've been wanting to do book recommendations, and I did one video where I talked about some book recommendations, but I want to throw a couple book recommendations out on my way out the door today for anybody who's looking for some new reading material. I have to tell you, the one that Brett, you finished this, Ingo Swann, Penetration. I'm still on the an Ingo Swann kick. This book is awesome if you really want to melt your brain. He is the one of the best remote viewers that's ever lived. Ingo Swann is a legend. Ingo Swann worked with Hal Puthoff and Russell Targ at Stanford Research Institute back in the 70s and 80s. And Ingo Swann was the remote viewer that helped basically build and launch the program for our domestic intelligence and military agencies to use remote viewing as an intelligence gathering tool against the Soviets. And he was so good that he was able to shut down the quark detector that they had built into the floor at SRI. And he was even able to draw pictures of what it looked like, but this thing was buried down on the ground. And he described it. He is known as like a actual real life Jedi. Like this guy could do amazing things. And in this book, what he talks about is crazy. If you go on again, DuckDuckGo, type in Coast to Coast AM with Ingo Swann, INGO Swann. And there's a great interview with Art Bell and Ingo Swann, and he talks about it. You don't have to read the book, but if you just listen to this interview, Ingo, they did so many experiments at SRI where they would basically put him in a room and they would have him remote view stuff. Double blind, laboratory controlled conditions. Nobody knew what was in the envelope or what was in the desk or whatever. And they would just send him like some coordinates and he would have to go remote view them. He did so many of those that he got bored. And one day he goes in and he's like, I got to do something else. Can we just do something different? And they decided that he was going to look at the moon. And he remote views, he RVs the moon. And when he RVs the moon, this is what he says. There's already people there. They're doing something. There's a lot of work happening. There's technology on the moon that's not built by us, and it's working. And somebody spots him. He's remote viewing this, and he goes, they can see me. They found me. They notice I'm here. And they chase him out. His consciousness is like located at this moon space, and whoever they is, spots him, and he has to leave. This is one story in the book. And then there's another story where they had sent was it Voyager? What the probe was that was out in space. They were there was a NASA probe, I forget which probe it was, that was going to arrive at a particular location and gather some data. And so he was trying to remote view ahead of it. I want to say, is it Mercury? Voyager didn't go to Mercury, but what I have to, if anybody knows, he was able to see some stuff that NASA found out later, and that's how he was able to prove that he actually remote viewed it first. And he has a third story where he is contacted by an intelligence guy who goes by one name, Axelrod. Axelrod is this weird dude who basically shows up and is like, hey, Ingo, I need your help with some things. Would you mind working for us for a little bit? I represent a group who needs some help figuring some things out. This guy, Axelrod, is accompanied by two other security people who Ingo calls the twins. The twins are these Arnold Schwarzenegger-looking dudes who are like almost identical twins. And they follow him, Axelrod, around, and they go from place to place. Everywhere they go, everywhere Ingo goes, these guys are there. There's this a part in the book where he talks about being in California. He's in Los Angeles. He goes to the grocery store. He's kind of a chef and he likes to cook. So he's having a dinner party for some friends in LA. He goes to the grocery store to buy some ingredients and he sees this woman in the store. And he's like describing this woman. And he goes like, she's stunning. She's unbelievable. This amazing woman who is just like, it's LA. So, but that could mean all kinds of different things. But he describes her as being like impossible to miss. She's impossible to miss. And she's got sunglasses on. And he notices her and he's like, there's something different about this person. I can't quite put my finger on it, but there's something weird about this person. And as soon as he notices her, he looks over and he notices these other guys, the twins, the security guys, are in the store with him and her, and they're watching him and they're watching her. And one of them signals to him and they're like, you need to get out of here. And he leaves. He gets confronted later by Axelrod, and they basically tell him, they're like, that woman, that person you saw is a hybrid. She's not a human like you. She's something else. And we don't exactly know what they're capable of, but she's extremely dangerous. She's extremely dangerous. And you have to avoid her at all costs. Like, we're watching this person. Axelrod takes Ingo Swann to this remote location. He's like, you want to see some serious shit? Come with me. They set up this expedition and they go to what Ingo describes as someplace up north, like Canada. And they blindfold him. They finally get out to where they're supposed to go. They land this little airplane, or it was Alaska. I think it was Alaska. I don't think that's the actual location. I think it was probably somewhere in the Southwest, but in the story, he says it's up north. They get out of the plane. They go to this, they get in a Jeep. They drive out into the middle of nowhere. Then they get out of the Jeep and they hike for like another couple of miles. And then they finally get out to this very remote location. They get into place and they wait. And they're sitting there for hours. The sun sets, it gets dark. And then they're watching this lake, and Axelrod just goes, wait for it. And they look, and this craft materializes above this lake. It comes out of a portal. That's kind of how he describes it. It just appears out of this portal, and it starts sucking up water from the lake into the craft. And then it fires up this laser beam that scans the entire area with this red laser, this pencil laser. And it scans looking for them. And in that process, they're kind of scrambling for cover, and Ingo gets hurt, and they basically wind up getting out of there. The craft leaves, and they knew that this craft was going to be there at that time. So this book, Penetration, Ingo describes a situation where basically there is something happening on the moon. There's some kind of operation taking place there where there's some kind of technology that's being deployed against us here on Earth. It's some type of an observation post or a base of operations for some other activity that's taking place here. And he talks about all of it. And it would just sound crazy if he weren't known as one of the best remote viewers ever. Probably the best remote viewer of all time. If he wasn't such a legend, it would just sound like crazy talk. But this book, if you want to just blow up your brain with dynamite, get it, check it out, or just watch his interviews on Art Bell on Coast to Coast AM. I wanted to recommend another one. This was the one that Brett, I was telling you about. The Raw Material, The Law of One. I don't know if you've read this one yet, but you should read it. It's a great follow-up to Seth Speaks and Penetration, which I think you already read. Raw Material is some channeled material, but it's basically a Q&A with a interdimensional being that this research group had a procedure in place where they could put someone into a trance state, and this person could basically channel a non-human intelligence that would give them answers to questions. And they're asking all these questions. They're like, what are these craft? What are the what are they doing here? So they talk about I'm trying to just find an example here. Let me see which page I have marked. Hang on, I dog-eared a page here. Oh, it's just so deep. There's not one little thing I could just dip into. I'm going to have to pull some stuff later and go into it. But, here we go. Okay. Session 7, January 25th, 1981. And it's broken into this question and answer thing. Okay. So questioner, you mentioned that there were a number of members of this. So this is channeled material but a group of researchers, they're talking to a person who is in a trance, and they are channeling this being that goes by Ra, and they are explaining, they're asking questions about what's going on with non-human intelligence and Earth and all of the stuff right now. And this is taking place in January of 1981. Here's the question. You mentioned that there were a number of members of the Confederation of Planets. Remember the Confederation of Planets that Canadian Minister of Defense Paul Hellyer talked about? And Haim Eshed, Israeli space head of the Israeli space whatever group, Haim Eshed, Haim Eshed. Both talked about a Confederation of Planets. Here's the question. You mentioned that there were a number of members of the Confederation of Planets. What avenues of service or types of service are available to the members of the Confederation? Answer, Ra, I am Ra. Assuming that you intend the service which we of the Confederation can offer rather than the service which is available to our use. Let's see, the service available to our offering to those who call us is equivalent to the square of the distortion/need of that calling divided by or integrated with the basic law of one in its distortion, indicating the free will of those who are not aware of the unity of creation. They explain, it's just like that. It just goes on and on. I am called personally by 352,000. The Confederation in its entire spectrum of entity complexes is called by 632 million of your mind, body, spirit complexes. These numbers have been simplified. Anyway, it's awesome. You should read it. I'll find some better quotes that are have a little bit more context to them. Ra is low-key Terrence Howard. So read those, and then this one's great. Projection of the Astral Body. This is a wild card. It's a little bit different, not your typical UFO fare, but it's by Sylvia Muldoon and Hereward Carrington, and it's an instruction manual for astral projection. Oh, there we go. And it explains step by step a process by which you can do essentially what the gateway tapes do with projecting your consciousness and your astral body outwards and exploring other stuff. So those are my book recommendations. Send me yours. Let me know what if there's anything you recommend that I should look at. Okay, gang, I'm going to end the stream. I've been on for over 2 hours. I got to wrap it up here. So I'm going to end the stream. I'll stick around in the chat for a few minutes, and then I've got to bail. So thank you, everybody. Thanks for being here. As always, your support means everything. If you really want to help out, you can go to the website. You can go to the merch page. I've got free shipping on t-shirts right now. I think all the shirts, they should be free shipping. Let's throw one in the cart here. The women's racerback. Watchman logo shirt. Oh, hang on. Let me add one. Let's try this. They're all great, but the Black Heather is the one that I like the most for me. Here we go. I just want to make sure. Yeah, free shipping on the shirts. So pick up a shirt, pick up a mug, pick up some stickers, anything that you think is super cool. I'm working on insulated travel mug, insulated travel bottles. These are awesome. I wear these to the gym all the time. Everybody at my gym thinks I'm weird, but I don't care. These are fantastic. So when you want to get yourself the trifecta, you get the shirt, the sleeveless, and a mug. And we're working on a insulated mug too, an insulated travel mug. But the hoodies are awesome as well. So go check out the website. You can go to make contact. You can send an email to me if you want to reach out to me directly. I'll do my best to get back to you in a timely fashion, but it might take me a day or two. And you can also sign up. You can click Join Team Nightshift. You can go here and put in your first and last name and your email. It'll put you on the mailing list. And we're going to start doing more updates through the mailing list in the next couple of weeks. So that's something that I'm rolling out piece by piece as we go. We're still trying to get the Discord server up and running. I think my UK people, I think I've got UK shipping solved. I believe you should be able to order now. So any UK people, if you want to try to do an order, for some reason, when I was trying to set all this up, it won't let me just like select the EU as one big region. I have to go country by country and like add them. So I started with UK and I think Spain is in there and Germany. It's just the way the system is integrated is a little confusing to me. But try it and see if you can get a get an order to go through. Shadow Patriot Terry, speaking of merch, why can't we get member discounting anymore? You can get member discounting, and I'll reach out to the members in a separate message about that. So don't worry about that. That's something that I have to set up I have to put a coupon code in for members. So that's something I'll do, and I'll reach out to you guys separately. Okay, I'm going to end the stream. I'm going to stick around in the chat for a few minutes, and I'll see you guys on the next one. And thanks for hanging out, everybody. It's good to see you again. I'll see you next week. Oh, don't forget, next Wednesday, 2 o'clock, we're going to have Patrick. So make sure you set aside the time to be here. It's going to be a lot of fun, and really looking forward to that as well. So I'm going to end the stream. Catch you guys on the next one.